why video games are making you lazy and preventing you from moving forward in your life. In this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why video games are destroying your ambition, they're preventing you from accomplishing what you want to accomplish, and why you need to get them out of your life immediately. I have a confession to make. I was a big-time gamer. I mean, I gamed a lot. Probably from the ages about 12 to 18. I would have, on a good day, done about 5 hours on the PlayStation. Huge amounts of time that I completely drained, I completely wasted. And the issue was, it wasn't just the time I wasted, it was that I was absolutely rotting my brain from the inside out. I was preventing myself from being able to actually move towards any of my goals. It was absolutely destroying my life. And to be honest, if I think back on my childhood, if I think back on when I was younger, the biggest regret I have in all of that, and trust me, when you're a young person, you make a lot of regrettable decisions, but I think the number one biggest regret I have through that period was playing video games. I'm going to give you 3 reasons why video games are making you lazy and not moving you forward in your life in any way. And the first reason is that it's giving you achievement-free dopamine. It is giving you an insane amount of achievement-free dopamine. What do I mean by achievement-free dopamine? Well, a lot of us understand what dopamine is by this point. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical. It is released when you do something that is pleasurable or you're anticipating something pleasurable. The issue with receiving achievement-free dopamine is that you're receiving this dopamine, this feel-good chemical, but you're not actually accomplishing anything. See, 1,000 years ago, even 300 years ago, we were not able to receive achievement-free dopamine. It was pretty much impossible. The only things that you could do that could stimulate your dopamine were things like progressing in life. Maybe it's killing an animal, feeding your family, conquering a village. These things would provide you dopamine, but in return, you would have had to achieve something. You would have to have accomplished something that moved you forward in your life. Why do we even receive dopamine in the first place? Well, we're receiving dopamine because our brain is telling us, you did something good, I'm going to chemically reward you for doing that activity to reinforce the behavior to make you do it more. See, we weren't evolutionarily programmed. We were not designed in any way to have these modern devices, these modern activities that provide us with this dopamine, with this positive reinforcement without actually accomplishing anything at all. So video games is a huge example of this. When you play a video game, people who generally, any other parts of their life, they have zero attention span, but somehow you're able to sit and look at a computer screen or look at a television for 5 hours straight. How is that possible? Because video games are designed to be as stimulating as possible, to keep providing your brain with as much stimulation as possible. If I was a video game developer, how would I make the best video game? What is the best video game? Well, the best video game is the game that stimulates the user's brain to produce as much dopamine as possible. Why is that? Well, if one game produces this much dopamine and another game produces this much dopamine, I'm going to play this game every single day of the week. So every single video game developer, every single video game is trying to be that person. It's trying to provide you with so much stimulation that you don't want to stop playing. You don't want to quit. And these games are just getting more and more and more addictive. They're getting more realistic. They're getting better. They're getting just increasingly more and more stimulating. So all that happens is that you've just spent hours effectively plugging the dopamine drip into your brain and just constantly feeding yourself with this dopamine over and over and over again. And what happens if you do that is that your brain goes, you're receiving an insane amount of dopamine. Have you just killed 7 woolly mammoths today and conquered 2 villages? No, you just sat on your ass all day. But your brain doesn't know that. It just goes, you're receiving a crazy amount of dopamine. This seems unordinary. This is out of balance. Let me bring all of your dopamine back down to baseline, bring it all down so that you're normal again. And all that means is that everything in your life produces less dopamine. What happens if everything in your life produces less dopamine? Well, it means that everything in your life is less enjoyable. That means going for a walk is less enjoyable. That means doing exercise is less enjoyable. That means being around your friends is less enjoyable. That means everything in your life is less enjoyable. Pretty bad. And what does it mean if everything is less enjoyable? It means that everything is more difficult. And if everything is more difficult, for example, if the work that you're trying to do is more difficult, if going and doing that exercise that you've wanted to do is more difficult, then you're probably not going to do it. So you just get stuck in a rut where you're thinking, man, I have no motivation. I have no drive and ambition to do anything. It's like, no, you just have no dopamine because you've fried it so brutally with these video games. By the way, if you guys are enjoying this content, if you want to learn more about this stuff, I have a completely free course on how to defeat procrastination by rewiring your brain to love working hard. You can check that out. I'll leave it in the link in the description below, or you can check it out at school.com/modernmonk. Otherwise, keep enjoying the video. So reason number 2 why video games are keeping you lazy, stopping you from moving you towards your goals, is that they produce artificial progress. Most video games, the best video games, always have some sort of progression system, some sort of leveling up system. You start as a stupid caveman with a little stick, and then progressively, as you defeat dragons, you defeat bosses, you get a sword, and then you have a bow and arrow, and then you have an atomic bomb. But you're slowly progressing over time. The reality is, you're not progressing in any way in your life, but your brain can't tell the difference between the progress that you're making in a video game and the progress you're making in real life. Your brain goes, nice dude, you've just defeated 17 armies today. That's a pretty good achievement. The reality is, you're 50 kilos overweight, covered in Cheeto dust, moving your thumbs in 50 different directions for the last 5 hours. You haven't done anything. You haven't moved your life forward in any way whatsoever. But your brain thinks that you're progressing, that you're moving forward in life. Most of these games thrive on the idea of progress. How can you level up as quickly as possible, as well as possible? What if, rather than trying to level up the pixels on a screen, we try to level up ourselves? What happens if we stop thinking, how can we make our video game character better, and start thinking, how do we make our character better? I think it's a much better way of living life because you're actually making some sort of progress. Because the thing is, when that new video game comes out, and this old one's a little bit more boring, produces less dopamine, you're going to throw that game aside. Now, all that progress, all that work you did, was all for nothing. I used to play a game called FIFA, which is a soccer game, and you would, get different cards, and you would upgrade, your cards would upgrade, and you get better cards and stuff like that, play with better players. You would spend hours and hours and hours working on making your team as good as possible so you could be better when you played other people. And then it would get to the end of the year, and everyone would throw that game in the bin and buy the next one and start all over again. I started playing FIFA in FIFA 11 up until FIFA 21 probably. That's 10 years of making artificial progress and then throwing it in the bin. What if I spent 10 years just leveling myself up? Well, shit, I probably would actually have some tangible results in my real life. That would probably be a much better outcome than having made some sort of artificial progress that I throw in the bin after a year because I get tired and bored of it. And reason number 3 for why video games are making you lazy is that they are a massive time drain. It is incredible how people with the attention span of a goldfish can somehow spend 8 hours playing video games. No problem at all. It sucks such an unbelievable amount of time. And the thing with a lot of these games, when I talk about the leveling up, the progression, is that these video games find a way of increasing the amount of time it takes before you level up over time. So at the start, level 1, you might have to pick a few berries, and then great, you got to level 2. That might take you 5 minutes. But to get to level 100, it might take you 10 hours. They find a way of giving you just enough dopamine, just enough reward to keep you playing, to keep you leveling up, that it just ends up wasting such a crazy amount of time. And because you're receiving such an insane amount of dopamine from these games, it doesn't feel hard at all. You're like, I can do this all day. This is easy to me. It's easy because you are stimulated to such an insane level. It is so unnatural what we're doing right now. Throughout our entire human history, there is no point in time where you could sit on your ass and receive more stimulation than the most stimulating thing in the world for 8 hours straight, non-stop. That is literally impossible to do. We are not programmed for this stuff. But now we have it, and we don't know how to control it. And all that happens is we just spend as much time as possible. I would have wasted probably close to a year of my life doing this stuff, just playing video games. It's sad to think, but that time can be spent so much better. Because not only is it that you're wasting that time, but you're also making it harder to do things that are moving you forward in your life. It's like a compounding effect of garbage. It is just... I can't understate how much I think that you need to get video games out of your life. Well, that was my rant on video games. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you stop playing video games after this. I hope it's changed your perspective. Either way, I hope you like the video. Please like, please subscribe. This is a new channel, so if you want to be an OG, I would much appreciate it. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video.